Amy from Trees Not Teas. We offer runners the chance to turn down the finisher's tee at the end of a race and plant a tree instead. And today we are very excited to be talking to Damian Hall, record-breaking ultra runner, person who is very outspoken about the climate crisis, and who also happens to be my husband. Hello, Damian.
Hello. It's not that exciting for you, is it? Presumably you've run out of good interviewees.
We have reached the bottom of the barrel. Right, Damian, you are currently in Chamonix, right?
Yes, Chamonix, France. I got here last night. There's a big race in a few days called the Ultra Trail de Mont Blanc, which is the biggest sort of ultra trail race in the world, which I'll be doing.
Good luck. How would you tell us about how you got to Chamonix?
Yes, admittedly, I've been here for the race a few times, and I've always flown, which is obviously cheap and relatively quick. But this year, I decided to get trains and use public transport, which was more expensive and took longer, but obviously is about a quarter or maybe a third of the carbon emissions. And was actually surprisingly pleasant. It was a long day, but I got to see a bit of Paris. I got to sort of relax on the train and you know, listen to the radio and do a bit of work, and I felt better about being here. I felt less guilty when I got here. Okay,
great stuff. Well, we will come back to sustainability later on, but first of all, we are going to talk about your book, In It for the Long Run, which was published by Vertebrate a few months ago now. So, Damian, can you tell us about the process of writing this book?
Well, normally for writing, I just go on Wikipedia, copy and paste, and you're done. It's just a few quick minutes. This one did take a bit longer. There were two all-nighters involved. I guess I had several years of sort of stories from races that I'd done, which was helpful as a guide. But yeah, I mean, nothing's as motivating as a deadline, is it? So of course there was some cramming at the end. And I don't know, some parts were exciting to relive for me, hopefully for other people. And some bits are kind of terrifying, and you feel very vulnerable when you bring a book out, because straight away you think, oh, I should have written it like that, or I shouldn't have said that about someone, or I should have said that about someone. So yes, so far people are being very kind about it, openly at least.
Okay, so it's kind of about your story, your journey in ultra running. You came to it, relatively speaking, late in life. Is that true?
Yes, as you'll remember fondly, something of a midlife crisis in my sort of mid-late 30s. Just did a half marathon on a whim, really, and just absolutely loved it, and then was soon doing a marathon and an ultra marathon, and just with the ultra marathon especially, I just straight away thought, this is for me, this is me, this stuff, this is what I was almost built for, you know, this is what I've been looking for in my life almost. I just love it. There are so many aspects to it, but above all, there's a wonderful community around it. Actually, I don't think I've met anyone in the sport I didn't like. So it's a wonderful, and it's absolutely booming. Even before sort of lockdown, it was mushrooming in popularity, and seems to just be getting more and more popular. So yeah, it's wonderful.
Okay, so you have obviously done quite a few races in your time. How is your collection of T-shirts looking?
Yeah, I mean, nearly every race you do, whether it's even a 5K, you know, up to 100 miles or so, you know, you're given a T-shirt, whether you sort of even tick a box or not. I've got in the habit of the last year or so, thanks partly to you guys and Rerun Clothing, of being able to, you know, having the courage to say, actually, no, thank you, I don't want a T-shirt. And this week I've got to go and register for UTMB. I'll try hard to remember when they give me there'll be a goodie bag with a T-shirt and stuff, and I'm going to try to remember to say no thank you. But yeah, I did a year or two ago, I did go through all my running kit and pass on a lot of it, because I realized I simply wasn't using it. It was just sitting in a drawer. yeah, we passed a lot of those on. I do have 2 or 3 T-shirt race T-shirts, mean something to me, and that I wear them. I wear them a lot. But the others were just sitting there, so I've passed them on, hopefully to people who might use them. But yeah, it's a problem. It's a problem in running. Running has a T-shirt problem, and I don't know if it sounds a bit trivial or not, but it's a big problem. There are thousands, if not tens of thousands of T-shirts being made that probably aren't needed at all, aren't being used, and they're very well, as you guys know, if it's cotton, it's very water intensive and carbon intensive to produce, and then the technical T-shirts are very they last for a long time, so they don't break down for hundreds of years. So yeah, it is a bit of a problem, and the sort of clothing industry is a huge polluter. It's worse than aviation. So it's like if I did fly to Chamonix and then picked up 5 race T-shirts, I don't know if that quite balances out, but like, yeah, the race T-shirts is kind of a bigger problem in a way.
Yeah, absolutely. Right, thank you. So we did already touch on this at the beginning, but obviously you are very concerned about the climate crisis. Has there been any particular thing that was a catalyst for igniting your concern?
I guess I've always loved being outdoors, and my parents have voted Green for as long as I can remember, and so on. But it was when Extinction Rebellion started doing their protests in London that I really thought, oh, hold on, how urgent is this stuff? And then you look into it, and scientists say we need to cut global carbon dioxide and other greenhouse emissions by 45% this decade, and that just isn't happening whatsoever. We're still going up. So clearly, governments, need to make big, bold, brave decisions now, and they're not doing it. And I think we can all sort of guess why. It probably comes down to this ultimately. But yeah, I'm really upset by that. And I've got children, or rather, we've got children, and yeah, I'm worried about the planet we're passing on to them, I suppose. And you kind of think, well, what will they think of us? In a few generations, a generation or two time, we knew what was happening. We had the chance to do something, and we're not doing it at the moment. So I'm really alarmed. I'm really alarmed by it. I'm really upset by it.
So what would be your advice to people who feel similarly to you, which I assume is most people, and particularly runners? What can they do?
Yeah, that's kind of the big question. And I am writing another book on all of this out next year, actually. And the further you dig down into the weeds, it does get, every different area is so complex. But there's two debates. One is like, is it down to individuals to sort this out, or is it down to governments and corporations? And clearly, governments and corporations can have a far bigger impact. They can change things like that. That can have huge implications, much more than us washing up our hummus pots and recycling, doing our recycling. Is really insignificant, really. So I think the number one thing people should do is try and be political and hassle your MP and get involved in protests, whether that's online or on the streets. I think that's the best thing for now. But ultimately, if you want to look at for your individual carbon footprint, and that is a concept that comes from BP, by the way, that individuals should start taking care of emissions. But it's still interesting to do, and most of us could probably cut down. The 3 things for individuals, really, it's quite easy. It's diet, the energy for your sort of household or possibly business, and your travel. And those 3 things would usually be 75% of a person's emissions. So diet, I think most people know, it's got to be less red meat, especially beef and lamb, and less dairy. Energy is really easy, as we know. You can switch in a few minutes to a renewable energy supplier, and that's a quarter of your emissions sorted. That's quite satisfying to do, really easy. You might even save money. Travel is more complex, I find. We've got a car. We sort of would rather not have one, I suppose, but I don't know, often we don't really have an alternative, I don't think so. And I've been chatting to people here, and public transport is so much better in France and Switzerland. It's quite easy to get around with on buses, or so transport could definitely be improved. But those are the 3 areas for people. And then into running, well, the biggest thing will be travel when it comes to running. So UTMB's footprint, the biggest part of their footprint will actually be the travel of people to the race. So there's about 10,000 people coming to race here. If they all fly, that's just a huge, huge emissions. But then the debate there is that on the race or is that on the individuals? Like who, you know, who's responsible for that? So that you know, that's a debate that has to be had, really. And obviously it's probably a bit in the middle. Like I made some choices, but they weren't as easy. But some races could probably maybe incentivize or reward. I think sort of public transport or lay on transport options. You know, we're talking about some races that are UTMB's a massive business, global business. You know, a little race down the road, a bit different, but people aren't probably going to travel far to it. I'm waffling a bit now, but yeah, travel to races is probably the biggest thing for a runner. Yeah, your kit can be a big thing as well. Runners use a lot of kit, so we could all sort of try and refuse, reuse, recycle, repair kit more. You know, the most sustainable kit is the kit you've already got, not necessarily the company, you know, saying, oh, we've made this from a recyclable item, which, you know, could be good, might not be. Diet does come into it again. I mean, runners probably eat a bit more than your average member of the public. So those are probably the biggest issues, really. But I think, yeah, one of the small things we can do is, yeah, when you're doing a race, maybe say, hey, actually, I don't want the T-shirt or possibly the medal. Maybe take a tree instead. I mean, that, because it's such a simple message, I think that's why it's really taking off. And I'm really encouraged by what I see in the running world, actually, with those sorts of things. But yeah, it's a complex area. And also, I think aim for progress, not perfection. It's okay to be an imperfect activist, because, you know, almost everything we do creates emissions. So, you know, it's impossible not to. So, you know, don't be afraid to be a little bit of a hypocrite or be a little bit imperfect. Yeah, that's probably enough waffle.
Thank you. I'm really sorry to say that we've had a little bit of trouble with the connection here and the picture has frozen slightly, but we're going to plow on anyway. Actually, I'm at my last question for you now anyway, Damian, but you have frozen again, unfortunately. What are your running ambitions, if they are not too secret? You've done obviously all sorts of things in the past, but what's in the future for you that you are happy to tell us about?
Well, I'm going to win UTMB on Friday. When's this coming? Question. I suppose, honestly, it is to try and, if you haven't guessed, I suppose to try and use running and the small platform that it's given me to, you know, I suppose spread these ethical messages about our our ecological and climate emergency. Yeah, that's my #1 goal, actually. But you know, if I can set a few records and win a few races along the way, then obviously that helps my platform, so that I can spread that message. So I'm probably going to be, if people don't want to hear this message, I'm probably going to be quite annoying. But then I think I was quite annoying anyway. You don't need to answer. That wasn't a question.
All right. Okay. Thank you very much. I think that's quite enough from you. So thank you very much, Damian Hall, for talking to us today, and very good luck on Friday.
Thank you.
Bye.